again to all of our loyal listeners. My name is Priscilla.
And I'm Yessie.
And welcome to another episode of
Nenas Hangout! Yay! Hey Nenas, before we dive into today's episode, I want to give you a gentle heads up. We'll be discussing topics related to disordered eating, body image, and diet culture. If these subjects feel heavy for you, please take care of yourself, pause, step away, or listen with someone you trust. Your well-being comes first, always. Sending you so much love.
Imagine this. You're sitting at brunch with your girls, sipping on your iced latte, when someone casually says, "Ugh, I was so bad this weekend. I ate so much." And just like that, the mood shifts. Suddenly, everyone's talking about what they shouldn't have eaten and how they need to get back on track. And before you know it, food isn't just food anymore. It's a moral dilemma.
But babe, what if I told you food isn't the enemy? What if I told you that you don't have to earn your meals, punish yourself for indulging, or let diet culture live rent-free in your head? Today, we're breaking up with toxic food rules, ditching the guilt, and redefining what healthy really means.
So grab your matcha and get cozy, and let's have a real talk about food, body love, and why you deserve to enjoy every single bite without the side of shame.
So, to start off, what is your comfort food?
For me, I love Takis and Talenti mango ice cream with tajin. It's literally like one of my best things. Like
That's a good combo.
Like either when I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I just want to enjoy that, or the lime one, the lime Talenti ice cream with
the lime one.
Yes, it's so good.
That's gelato now, right?
Gelato. Yeah, I think so.
Yes, yes. I think for me, comfort means positivity. So whenever I feel positive and I feel amazing, energized, I just want to eat dark chocolate with almonds, hot Cheetos, and good tacos. Like all three of them at the same time.
Yeah. Now that we know your comfort food, what is your trigger food?
Yeah, for me would be hot Cheetos as well. When I felt down, when I felt like I needed to emotionally eat, I would grab a bag of hot Cheetos, like the big one. And sometimes, not always, but a lot of times, if I was like in a negative headspace, I would eat the whole entire bag. And then I would feel guilty about it. But I don't know, even though I love and hot Cheetos is part of my comfort food, it is also my trigger food.
Yeah, it's crazy because hot Cheetos have been with you on your good moments, but they have also been with you on your sad moments.
Yes, so yeah. What about you?
For me is like processed foods. So I don't really like to eat from like, you know, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, like fast food places, or processed foods. They make me feel very guilty because I, at some point, didn't measure how much I would eat of those. And now whenever I look at them or I, like, sometimes eat them, it reminds me of, like, how bad I would feel about myself back then, like, you know, so it just makes me feel guilty. I have a better relationship with it now, like every now and then, like maybe once a year, once like every 2 years, I'll have McDonald's, and it does taste good. It does, you know, it feels nice to be able to eat it and stuff, but I try not to really get it that much. Yes, see, I wonder, what phrases did you hear growing up? You know, what childhood memories do you have regarding food?
Growing up, it was divided in two groups, whether it caused gain weight or whether it didn't, right? So, for example, the belief that anything sweet, like dessert, bread, cake, it caused like weight gain. And this was considered automatically bad. So everything sweet, pan dulce, candy, it was considered bad. I grew up hearing phrases like la tortilla engorda, el pan engorda, meaning that, you know, it causes weight gain. And another one that I had that I didn't know caused a lot of pain was, because you're a child, you have to finish your whole entire plate. No if, buts, or anything, right? You have to finish your whole entire plate. And, you know, that power dynamic of, because you're a child in growth, you're growing, you're developing, your body's growing, you have to finish your plate. But sometimes, you know, your tummy tells you like, oh no, like I don't want to eat it.
Like I can't anymore.
I can't.
Like,
but my mom would make me finish the plate, you know? And then also, like, I also heard things like, oh, at least you have food.
yeah.
Your dad didn't have food growing up, or there's kids in Africa starving, you know?
Yeah.
So you better be grateful for at least having like warm meals every day. And so like I would say those are like the negative phrases and memories that I had regarding food. And it's so weird that it started at a very young age, you know, that we hear our moms, our parents talk about this. Yeah, what about you?
For me, I mean, I'm not gonna blame my family, right? Like about my own like eating disorders and stuff like that, but I wouldn't have known, or I wouldn't even have thought of them like fat whenever they felt fat, you know? Like I didn't think about diets, I didn't. And I remember like being little and like seeing my tias just being like, oh, la dieta de la manzana, or like,
oh yeah,
you know, things like that. And I would even look at them, and keep in mind, my mom and my tia, like they had me and my cousin when they were very young. So after they had us, they were still able to get their body back up.
Like
they
snatch back?
Yeah, like they weren't super like as skinny as they were before, right? But they were still skinny. Like I still remember seeing them like as skinny, like maybe a size small. If they were an extra small, now they were a size small. So they were still petite. But I would hear them like holding on to their stomach, being like, oh my gosh, like mira, es que estoy gorda, and and that's whenever I started to like look at myself and be like am I fat, like because I have a roll, or because like you know. So I also would hear a lot about, you know, like if you don't eat, you are being ungrateful, because there's so many kids like out in the street that they wish that they had this meal, but you know, you're not gonna eat it, like you really want to throw away your food.
My mom would say, oh, that's a quarter, that's $1. She would actually put like
a dollar sign, like a money sign.
To like the food, and that I feel like messes up with you, because then you feel guilty as a kid, and even if you're full, completely full, you feel the pressure to eat it even when you don't want to. Yeah.
And something else that you said, that like food to you was classified as like the good food like makes you fat, and then the like healthier food, it was kind of the same for me. But like, for example, if my tia or my mom, they wanted to eat some tacos, they'd be like, damn, like, I'm gonna get fat. Like, just because, even if it was just like 3 tacos, or they were really small. So, and then whenever they had to drink their healthy juice, or, you know, smoothie, like a healthy smoothie that they didn't like, they'd be like, ugh. So I had to me, I was like, oh, if you're skinny, it's because you have to eat all this food that doesn't taste good, you know? And then the good food, like the greasy food, it immediately makes you fat. So to me, it was like, damn, like, do I want to be fat today, or do I want to eat healthy today? You know, there was no balance. So I think in my perspective, it was like, okay, you're either choosing to be fat, or you're choosing to be skinny. And it sucked, because I remember thinking too, like, damn, like I like all the fat foods. Like I love chocolate, like I love maruchan, like, you know, like why I would feel guilty for liking those things. I was like, why don't I like healthy food? Like, you know.
And moving on to dive a little bit deeper on this topic, what are some of your unhealthy eating habits that you had?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I can be on opposites ends of the spectrum. So I'll either starve myself, or I'll binge eat. And it all depends on like how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, or even the time. Like sometimes, you know, I still go to college, right? And I work full time. We have this podcast, and there's relationships that we're trying to keep in touch. So sometimes it's hard for me to even find the time to eat. And there'll be days where I'll just have like half a meal a day, which is bad. But then, you know, the one day or the few hours that I'm free, I'm like, oh, well, I'm just gonna eat these cookies and I'm gonna eat these Takis and I'm gonna have these tacos because I haven't eaten, right? So I'll eat in those few hours what I haven't eaten in days, you know? And then after that, like, I'll start feeling guilty, and at some point, like, I'm not proud of it, but back in high school and even middle school, like, I would make myself throw up because I didn't like that feeling of guilt that, like, damn, like, I chose to eat all of this and now I'm gonna get fat, like, like, it's not something that I'm proud of, and it is something that I have outgrown. I haven't made myself thrown up in years, but it did lead to that at some point.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with, like, the binge eating. And it's so heartbreaking, right? To treat our bodies like that when food is like basic necessity. We need food. We need to nourish our bodies. But, you know, society, a whole bunch of things make us like think otherwise. I think as a kid, I was very curious about food and the different tastes. I loved everything. I ate everything. And I had a really, I guess, one of the lucky ones that has like really good genetics and really fast metabolism. So everything that I would eat, I was just shit it out.
Oh my God.
So I never had a problem with that. And I always remember always playing, always being very active. So that was as a kid, right? But then as a preteen teen, I had a really bad experience in 5th grade to 6th grade. And that's whenever like everything hit me regarding like the socioeconomics of food. You know, we were poor, so we couldn't go out as much. So the reason why I was probably getting beans and rice all day, every day, was because we were poor. Culturally, my food was different, right? So when I would pack my lunches, my food looked different. And it was a little bit embarrassing to be different, because then kids would ask me, because I went to a predominantly like white middle school, they would just like me faces, and I'd be like, what is that, you know? And so kids can be fucking mean.
Yes.
And so then I would be like, oh, so am I not supposed to eat this? Okay, I guess I'll eat, I don't know, the cafeteria food instead.
With no flavor.
Exactly. And then slowly I remember hiding food in my closet and my drawer. And to this day, sometimes I do that unconsciously.
Me too.
Because I would see my mom do it. She would hide her snacks in her closet, and so it was a learned behavior. And is it a good behavior? No. I think accessibility to food, or the way I want to raise my kids, would be like, okay, here's all the candy in the world, here's all the flavors, here's everything in the kitchen accessible to you. Because if you restrict a child, then they'll develop like those really bad eating habits, right? And so restriction, I think it's one of the restriction, and unable to afford McDonald's, unable to afford like socially acceptable food was a terrible experience for me, right? Because then I would just compensate. I think other eating habits that you mentioned that I also do is compensation. I would compensate by, okay, if I'm eating terrible tacos, greasy food, eggs, everything, right? And then I'll work out extra hard. I'll go out and like work out for 2 hours and go to those extremes, which aren't healthy, because your body likes little doses of workouts. It doesn't like de un jalón ir like working out so hard, because then you can mess up your joints, a whole bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah, there should be a balance.
There should be a balance, right? But it's hard. It's hard because you're trying to make a positive out of a negative, but it just doesn't work out like that.
Yeah.
And then another eating, I have a lot. I have a whole list here of unhealthy eating habits. And one that I didn't realize I did until like another person told me, because we were talking about eating disorders, and she told me she did it. And then I was like, wait, I do that too. And that's like watching other people eat, like mukbangs or like TikToks on people eating or making food to feel full instead of actually eating.
Yeah.
That is, I'm not proud of that one. That one's actually embarrassing because you see those TikToks and a lot of people find them like disgusting, but I would feel them like, oh, I'm in a way eating through them, with them, without having to eat. And so, yeah, those are my unhealthy eating habits that I'm not very proud of, but it just shows that everyone struggles with food. Yeah. How do you think diet culture messes up with our minds? Do you think it's as toxic as we make it out to be, or do you think it's deeper than that?
I think that diet culture messes with our minds because they have been around for many, 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 many years. And I wouldn't have known of them if I didn't see the women in my family doing them, right? I think that it's up to the person, though, if they let it get toxic. I know that I let it get toxic eventually, but I think that now I have found a good balance for the most part, now that I do like to be active and stuff. Because when I was younger, I mean, yes, I would play and stuff for sure. But other than playing, I wouldn't really just be like, oh, I'm going to go on a run, you know? And like, now I do. Now I do enjoy going to the gym. Now I do enjoy doing physical activities and staying active. And I also think that it can be toxic if you don't have a strong mind. So let's say that you're letting your insecurities conquer you and eat you up, then obviously, you know, when it comes to diets and certain restrictions, you're gonna get maybe over the line because you're trying to, like you said, compensate for either eating too much, or if you have this ideal body that you want to achieve and stuff. Like, if you're not strong enough and you're not trying to do it in a balanced way, then I think that it can get toxic for sure. I just want to remind you guys that the way that I see diets now is they're just a tool for you to be able to achieve your personal goals. You know, just because you're doing a diet for the next 3 days or a detox, it doesn't mean that you have to live for the rest of your life like that, you know. And I don't think that I understood that before, you know. I think that now I see it like as a lifestyle, like trying to eat healthy for my own health, you know, to try to take care of my own body.
We are growing older. Yes,
exactly. And at some point, I'm not going to have that fast of a metabolism that I have now. At some point, I'm not going to be able to stay as active as I would like to be. So that's why I'm trying to live like a lifestyle that is healthy, that is balanced. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I never have tacos, because I do. I love tacos and I love pizza, but I can also sit here and tell you that I also enjoy getting salads and you know, like grilled chicken and like healthy food. You know, I don't know why I can't think of any healthy food. I am a picky eater, unfortunately, so the few vegetables and like healthy food that I like, I stick to those. But what about you? Do you think that, you know, is toxic, or do you think that it's culture?
I do think is toxic. I think that it's not okay for children to body check themselves. I don't think it's healthy for children to think about thinness or thickness. I don't think it's healthy to label food as bad. Burgers are bad. Certain food is bad or disgusting. Food is food, and that's just what it is, right? I agree with everything you said, but it does get toxic whenever dieting pushes society to one extreme, right? I don't like that we have to look a certain way to be worthy, because we don't. You can be worthy at any stage, any size. Fortunately, the diet culture comes from generational trauma, you know, like you mentioned, your mom seeing that, my mom, my aunt, probably my grandma, probably my great-grandma. It's a chain that we have to break, and we have to do it for the next generation. We have to do it for a healthier society.
I think that we should be taught like how to, from little, right, like how to live a balanced and like healthy lifestyle. Because I know that with me, like I wasn't restricted from cookies and sweets and stuff. And no, I'm not saying that, you know, kids should be, but I also think that it shouldn't be as easy to get them. Like, for example, something that I want to do eventually, if God blesses me with kids, is if they want a dessert, okay, then let's give them some fruit. Or like there's brownies that don't have as much sugar, but they still taste really good. You know, there's healthy ice cream. So I think that teaching kids how to like and how to love grabbing the healthier versions of food, like,
Yes.
you know, should be, at least it's something that I want to implement in my future family, God willing.
I do agree with that. I think that, well, we are born not knowing what anything tastes like except for our mom's milk, right? So introducing children the flavors of the world little by little to increase their palate, for them to have options, I think it's good. I do want my kids to like celery, but also if they don't like celery, I'm also not going to force them, right?
No.
So it's hard. We're not mothers, so we don't know how difficult it could be. I understand that sometimes when moms are busy, dads are busy, life is chaotic, it is easier to go grab a burger from Wendy's or Chick-fil-A, right? So not shaming anyone. Not shaming anyone, but yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind.
And nowadays, like, unfortunately, it's cheaper to eat unhealthy food. Like, I'm sure that with $5 you can get a big ass meal from McDonald's, but you know, for $10 you get a salad from somewhere else. You're right. So sometimes, like, if you're struggling with money, or you know, whatever the reason may be, you're like, oh well, I might as well like spend $5 on this meal that's gonna make me full for the rest of the day, than $10 on a meal that's gonna make me full for part of the day.
Yes.
You know?
And it's interesting because this reminds me of a study that someone conducted. I don't know, but they were looking at a map and they were looking at the grocery stores and the accessibility of food, right? So where are the grocery stores located? Where are the fast food places located? And they found, I'm not sure how old this study was, or how old this study is, but they found that in low income neighborhoods there was quicker access to fast food than a good Whole Foods or a good like grocery store. So it's also not your fault, because the way society was built, or the way the city was structured, it just had it that way, you know. But it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Go look it up. Let me know if I'm wrong.
Do you think that people are truly obsessed with being thin and skinny, or is it more about control over their own lives?
I do think that people get obsessed with being thin. I am guilty of that. We live in a culture where people praise thinness. Even the Victoria's Secret fashion show that just happened a couple of months ago, was it really embracing other body types? Some people say yes, it did. Some people say no. But the majority of the models were still thin, right? And the opening show, or like the closing show, the people who had the better outfits were thin. So we definitely do obsess over being thin. I think we're also going back to the early 2000s, Britney Spears' thinness as a culture. We're not looking at BBLs anymore. Instead, Ozempic became, you know, the #1 medication in the US. People try to gain control over food and their bodies, because sometimes that's the only thing we can control, right? We cannot control the weather, we cannot control politics, we cannot control our financial stability, but at least we can control our bodies, right? At least we can be skinny. I may be poor, but I'll be skinny. Or I may be this or that, but I'm skinny. And so I don't like that mindset. I talked about freedom before in our first episode of this season, and I think true power comes from being authentic and loving yourself, regardless of the number on the scale, regardless of like how you look in a video, or if your photo looks not so pleasing to you, you know. It's a hard journey though. It's easier said than done. I'm still struggling with it. I was diagnosed with an eating disorder when I was in 6th grade, and so once you're diagnosed, it's proven that you can never be 100% fully healed from an eating disorder. It's like a roller coaster. Sometimes there's highs, sometimes we have a lot of lows. Especially loving myself, learning how to truly love myself has given me a little bit more freedom when it comes to thinness and how I want my body to look. I think instead of working out to be thin, I'm trying my best to work out, to live a long life, to have stronger legs, to one day hike the longest trail I can find, to dance with my partner until the age of 80. Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills just thinking about that. Thinking about how I want to work out to achieve, to be there for my grandkids, to be there and not just be, on a wheelchair. I don't want that. I want to be as healthy as I can for as long as I can, because thank God, I wasn't born with a disease. I am not disabled. So it is my social responsibility to do that for myself. Yeah.
I can also relate to, wanting to have a healthier lifestyle and better eating habits to live longer. My stepdad, I believe I've already talked about this in some episodes, maybe from season 2. But my stepdad has had 3 heart attacks. He had already 3 whenever he was in his 30s. So that's really, really young. And I, maybe almost 10 years ago, I was there whenever he had another heart attack, but this time it was a bad one. We went to the hospital, and even the aftermath, I saw how much it affected not just him, but my mom and obviously me, and it just made me more aware to what I am putting into my body. And I learned that I didn't want to go through that, because he has to stay on pills for the rest of his life now. So imagine whenever he doesn't take them, there's obviously side effects, and even with him taking them, there's side effects. So I realized that I don't want to live like that. I don't want to have to pay for these medicines that I probably wouldn't have need if I had just lived a better lifestyle. I think that it's also about control, at least with me, right? Once I saw myself in a way that I didn't like, once I saw a number in a scale that I didn't like, I was okay, it was a wake-up call for me. And I just wanted control over my body. I wanted control as to the clothes that I wanted to wear. I wanted them to fit me in a better way or in a certain way, so I worked towards that, right? But I will say also that I did become obsessed with being skinny, with the number on the scale, because I've been fat, quote unquote, and I've been skinny. And I have noticed how whenever I'm overweight, I don't get looked at as much, or I don't, from both men and women, I don't get compliments as much. And whenever I've been skinny, sometimes even too skinny, I notice that I get more, attention and stuff. So obviously as a girl, and I'm sure this happens to guys too. Yeah. Whenever you get a certain amount of attention, you feel good about yourself, and it's nice to get that reassurance from other people. Yeah, I do think that also it's both. But I also think though that once you have a healthier mindset about your body and about the control, I have also seen some people that they're already skinny, they've reached the certain goal that they had, and then now they want to be more muscular, so they start gaining weight, right? So it's
bulking and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why I think that it's mainly about control. And like you said, because this world is so chaotic, because there are so many freaking things that we cannot control, our body is the only thing that we can.
At the end of the day, love yourself, make the healthy choices, do what's best for you.
Yeah. But tell me the truth, though. Do you really think it's possible to love your body and want to change it? Or do we need to only pick one?
It's hard. And we're going to be real here, because I didn't like my body whenever I would gain those extra pounds. Is it possible to love your body and want to change it? Yes. I think that now that I've, outgrown, or not fully outgrown, but now I understand the toxic behaviors that I have towards food and whatnot. It all goes back to your intentions, making changes. Are you making changes to feel healthier, stronger, more confident, or are you making changes because you hate yourself? Anything that comes from a place of love is positive, no matter what. We have free will. We get to do whatever we want. It's a free country. But if it's coming from a place of hate, and you're talking negatively about your body, then you should rethink that, right? Because thinness will never solve your emotional issues. It will not solve your mental issues. If anything, it will put a band-aid over them, and then it'll be something else. Like my lips are too big, or maybe my nose isn't that cute. And then you'll start picking at more things than just, well, you know, the scale, or like the weight on the scale.
I think that it is possible to love your body and to want to change it, because that's where I'm at currently. You know, I finally found a balance between being and feeling grateful for my body, and also acknowledge that it's not perfect. Like, you guys, I'm sitting down and I still have, you know, my rolls. I still have, you know, like my little double chin sometimes. I still feel extremely, extremely grateful for my body, and that the way that it protects me against diseases. You know, I'm grateful for my organs. I'm grateful that I can, like, I have strong legs that I can walk and dance and run in. I'm grateful that I have both of my arms, and that my organs are working just fine, you know? So I do think that there is, and also, you know, I have been on the opposite side of the spectrum where I didn't love my body and I wanted to change it, and that didn't make me happy, because something that you said earlier is like, once I reached that goal of like being skinny, I still didn't feel good enough. Like, I still was like, oh, well, I have an accent, right? Like, I know that sounds stupid, but at some point that would make me insecure. Or like, I don't have colored eyes, or, you know, my nose, or whatever it is. But I do think that once you look inward and you remind yourself as to why you love yourself, it is powerful, you know, because you start seeing yourself in a different light, that like, okay, I may not be my body weight or my goal weight, but I do have this, and I am this kind of person, and I know that the people around me can count on me, and I am loved, and I am accepted by the way that I am. So I do think that it is possible to have both.
Oh, what's the one thing people don't talk about enough when it comes to eating disorders?
I think that we don't talk enough about how young you can develop those disorders. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I started to feel ashamed of my body and to be strict on myself, and started counting calories when I was freaking 11 years old. And, you know, we don't talk enough about how long they last. Like, I think that I still can have those eating disorders. I still can have the thoughts of like, damn, like, I just ate all of this. Like, should I make myself throw up? Like, you know, whenever you do put it out there, like, hey, like, I made myself throw up or something, it's immediately like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you doing that? And this and that. Like, you immediately are getting judged. And I know that, speaking from experience, that's the last thing I needed, right? Like, I wanted to open up to you about this eating disorder and how I've been feeling, and instead of receiving understanding or
and love and compassion,
I was given like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why are you doing that? Again, like, with the guilt. Like, there's so many kids and so many people, like, there's homeless people out there that wish that they could eat what you're eating, and you're making yourself throw up. Like, really? And trust me, like, what you're telling me, like, the way that you're judging me, I've already judged myself like that, you know? So you're just reminding me as to why I kept it to myself and why I didn't want to speak on it.
Yes. So we definitely need to be more compassionate about this. Just because it's normalized, because I do think that eating disorders are normalized, especially with what I eat on a day TikToks, or, oh, you are high on cortisol, and this is nature's Ozempic, and all of that, right?
You sound just like I feel like I'm watching one.
And so there was a TikTok of what I eat in a day of like a high schooler, and she had a piece of gum, a Gatorade, and like something else.
What the fuck?
We need more compassion, and we need to tell people, or like educate people on why it's wrong. Your liver can give up. Your like, you can have organ failure because you're not eating enough, or if you binge eat and you do these starvation but then you binge eat, it can also affect I forgot what organ in your body, but it can like mess it up, and
there's consequences.
Yeah, there's consequences to this. Your digestion system, you will mess up your metabolism and your digestive system without even knowing. And EDs are more than just food. It's an emotional distress. That's why whenever you're diagnosed with one, it never goes away. And once you're diagnosed also with body dysmorphia, it never goes away. You just learn how to live with it. So I think it starts from a young age, you know, like loving food, seeing food in a positive way, in a fun way, you know, all these flavors that we have to offer, all these cultural dishes that are out there. It can be fun. So I think we have a lot of work we need to do.
Do you have cheat meals? If you do you think that it promotes guilt, or is it just a way to make food fun again?
Yes, I do have cheat meals. This is one thing that I'm learning in 2025 is that the whole idea of labeling food as good or bad has to go out the window. It has to go away. No more, you know, no more cheat meals. Just food is food, period. No guilt, no shame, you know. And it's very interesting because I also was listening to another podcast on food, and they were saying, you see this banana? This banana can be someone's lunch. This banana can trigger someone's eating disorder. This banana may be just a banana before practice. This banana can mean different things for different people. So we give the power to food. One thing that I'm working on really, really, really a lot in 2025, as I'm like trying not to go out to eat as much, is okay, I can have my hot Cheetos, I can have my chocolate, I can have everything accessible to me. Thank goodness I can afford those things, right? But, you know, food is just what it is. Eating intentionally, eating whenever you feel hungry, and not label it as good or bad. We need to stop.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I don't hate the idea of cheat meals. I'm not gonna lie. I think that whenever I was first starting, you know, to try and have like a healthier lifestyle, I obviously, you know, was very new to it, and so I went from eating like, or not limiting myself in what I was eating and how I was eating, to cold turkey, just like eating, like you said, bananas and apples and fruit, and like, no, that's not yummy, but I was somebody that wouldn't snack on that. So to me, like the idea of cheat meals, it promotes like that you can have your favorite food still, but with a balance, right? Like I know that if I would eat like just salads every day and like, you know, healthier like food, whenever I got to eat my pizza or my tacos, like, oh my God, it tasted amazing. Like I would look forward to that. Sometimes that was the highlight of my day.
Yes.
And I feel like I got used to not eating greasy food now, like that whenever I do eat greasy food constantly, like for even a few times in the day, I'm like, oh, like my stomach hurts.
Yeah, it does hurt. Yeah.
So I don't hate cheat meals. I do think that it's like another way to reward yourself for being good. It's like I've been eating healthy. I've been, you know, trying to have healthy snacks as well, like almonds, fruit, whatever. And now I get to enjoy this pizza. Now I get to enjoy these tacos and these ice cream and not feel guilty about it, like because I've earned it. You know? But that's how I see it.
I felt triggered.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Because, you know, I'm like trying to deconstruct that, but it's okay.
Oh, I am sorry. And what, like, how did that make you feel though? Like,
because
triggered?
why am I, okay, if you have a week, right? I don't know how I'm going to put this on the podcast, but if you have a week, right? And Fridays are your cheat meals, don't you think that's a restrictive behavior and action? Why are you restricting yourself for 5 days, 6 days to achieve that goal? That's also, it's like binge eating, but to like a more toned down level, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know, I'm still trying to like understand that myself. And so like why do I have to eat, I do like salads, but why do I have to eat grilled chicken, salad, rice for 5 days just to look forward to that. I don't know if it's a good exercise for my mental health, you know. I think instead it would be like, just eat it whenever you feel like it, not just on Fridays, you know, or like just eat it whenever you are happy, or just eat it whenever your body's asking for it. If your body, because sometimes my body does ask for a salad, you know, and sometimes my body does ask for it, like a tres leches. The way that I want to see food now, it's like learning how to hear my body and like just to obeying my body. I'm feeling a mango right now. Go grab the fucking mango. Oh, I'm feeling spinach right now. Go grab the spinach, you know, instead of like having this structure that, like, you know, it causes me anxiety to even think about it like that. But I think it's also like my own, you know, anxiety and like eating disorders. Yeah.
I mean, I know that the way, like, the reason why I do like the idea of like cheat meals, and the reason why like is because at some point, like, I literally like you said, if I wanted a pizza and it's one of my favorite foods, like I would have it for 3 days in a row. And because of what happened with my dad, like I just want to live a more like balanced like life, right? Like I know that I could have pizza more than once a week, but at the same time, like, is that really healthy for my body? Like, is that really healthy for my heart? Like, and that's why, like, I'm just me again, like the way that I see food is like I want to be more aware, and I like to acknowledge that there's consequences to my actions. There's you know, like, and not just with food, right? Like drinking, smoking, and stuff like that.
That
like,
is true.
You know, there's a lot of things out there that can definitely harm us if there's not a balance. And because I like to live life in a certain structure, right? Like I like, if you see my planner, I'm like, okay, at 5 I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna wake up at this time and go to the gym. So that's why, like, to me, just being more organized. And sometimes it's not gonna be on a Friday. Sometimes, like, you know, it could be on a random day. You know? But that's fine, because I've been in, like I said, both opposites, where like I went cold turkey and like did not even have cheat meals ever. And I was at some point in the spectrum of like, oh, I'm just gonna eat whatever the fuck I want. So that's why, like, I like to
that's where you find your balance. And that just goes to show that, like, one size doesn't fit all. Do what's best for you if you have a busy lifestyle. I think we should put this on.
We should.
I'll just cut like little pieces. But I think that just goes to show that my way may not be your way. But I think as long as you don't overindulge, as long as you don't feel like you're starving yourself, you know, you want to find that happy medium and do whatever it takes to like find that balance, because we all want to be in that happy medium.
And how do you feel about the whole like health at every size movement? Do you think it's truly empowering, or are there things that we're maybe missing out on?
Body positivity is a slippery slope. We do need self-love and body acceptance regardless of like size. Everybody needs compassion. Everybody deserves to be loved. However, neither extreme is okay. And I think that's a reoccurring theme on this podcast. Like, you don't want to be struggling with your health, having medication every day, or not being able to walk up the stairs. But also, you don't want to be malnourished, you know, and you don't want to starve yourself. And so it is a fact that obesity is a problem in the United States, right? I think it's very interesting that Ozempic got that famous right now, you know, when obesity is in an all-time high. Is it the solution? No, I think it's a quick solution. But I think we need to start taking accountability of our own body instead of focusing on sizes and, oh, like, we love every shape, whatever. Yes, we do love every shape, but go deeper. Go get a blood exam and go deeper, dive deeper than just what's on the surface.
I do think that health at every size, is it empowering? Absolutely. I do think that there are good intentions behind there. Or behind it, right? That, you know, just because someone is more chunky or has more curves doesn't mean that they're not beautiful. Just because someone is like really, really thin, and it could be just like genetics, like it doesn't also mean that they're not beautiful. But I do, however, think that we're missing, and maybe not being too realistic, that bad eating habits have harmful consequences on our body. Be it if you don't eat, there's gonna be consequences. You're gonna be malnourished. You're probably like some of your organs may be shutting down. If you eat too much, you know, you're also running the risk of getting high cholesterol levels or diabetes and other types of heart problems. I don't think that we should be too nice and ignore the facts. You know, that's what I think that we're missing out on.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And to close it off, why do you think so many people go through their entire lives in a toxic relationship with food? And what's the hardest part of breaking free from it?
From a young age, we are exposed to diet culture, right? Like, which glorifies thinness and demonizes certain foods, you know, leading to guilt and shame around eating overall, like we've been saying. And food often becomes, you know, an emotional coping mechanisms for many people, counting myself. You know, it's whether for comfort or stress relief. And I think that the hardest part of breaking free from this cycle is unlearning, you know, the harmful beliefs, and rebuilding a balance with food. Like, at least for me, I would say that it was hard to stop telling myself, like, I'm not beautiful, or like I'm too fat, or even now, like, I know that I'm skinny, like I know it, but sometimes, like, even if I see, like, if I'm bloated, or like I'll tell myself, like, ew, like, I look disgusting, and I'm not proud of that, you know, but I'm still trying to unlearn those habits. Like, obviously you're gonna be bloated, bitch, like, you just ate, like, you know, like, it's normal, and obviously you're gonna have a little bit of a gut, even if, like, I've been, you know, 86 pounds, and I still had a little one, because we have organs, like, we're not supposed to, like, just not have anything there. And I think that it requires shifting, you know, your mindset from restriction and guilt to nourishment and self-compassion.
Amen. Yes. For me, food has been an emotional crutch throughout my whole entire life. I see food as a savior in a way, but also it became my enemy. And I'm thankful for food, that food was there for me at my lowest points. I'm thankful that food was there for me at my happiest moment, and not something else, not cocaine or not alcohol or like any other substance, you know. Que bueno, like I'm actually happy that it was food and not something more dangerous, you know. But now that I know that, and now that I'm realizing all these eating patterns, and I'm realizing or diving deeper into my relationship with food, I think it's time to unlearn all that damage, and rebuild everything. Unlearn everything and start all over. At the end of the day, like we said before, my eating habits are not gonna be her eating habits or your eating habits. It's unfortunate that so many people have to go through this for the rest of our lives. I think at the end of the day, we just need to come from a place of love, remind ourselves that our body is here and is doing a lot for us, doing so much for us. I would say that's it.
Unlearn those bad habits of, like, not loving yourself and not accepting yourself, you know, because if you don't accept yourself, how do you expect anybody else to accept you the way that you are?
Exactly.
But thank you so much, you guys, for being here. Thank you for staying, you know, with us until the end of this episode. I know that we probably said some things that I hope it didn't trigger you guys too much.
It's a hard conversation to have.
It is.
But this is why we make the podcast, to have these conversations, to say the things that other people keep to themselves. So I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something.
Yes, and don't forget to have compassion for yourself, you know.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, I'm going to tell you something that I wish I would have had someone to tell me, but just because you have an eating habit, an eating disorder, doesn't mean that you're too broken, or it doesn't mean that you're, you know, not good enough. Like, and don't be, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I'm so proud that I had an eating disorder, right? But also don't be too ashamed. Like, it's okay to open up about these things. And like we said earlier, if someone does open up to you, judgment is the last thing that they want to hear. If anything, you should be honored that they trusted you and telling you something so deep about themselves and something that they're struggling with. So, yeah,
just keep that in mind. But thank you all, and see you next time.
Bye.